Good evening. You are listening to the Fumblerooski Podcast by Power 88 Dean Radio. I'm your host, Adam Wright, along with co-host Justin Tucker. So we have a great show planned for you tonight. We are officially moving on to Week 7. I can't believe it. We're already at Week 7 action. And it honestly feels like just yesterday where opening day was right around the corner. But anyways, there is a new top seed in the AFC. We're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about the state of the underachieving Cleveland Browns thus far. And we have a new surprise segment coming up for you guys, debuting this week. Sorry, today. But anyways, we're going to get right into it. So anyways, you have your AFC best Baltimore Ravens of all teams. So Baltimore came into week 6. They were going up against the LA Chargers, not the San Diego Chargers, the LA Chargers. And we've been talking about this team as a possible Super Bowl contender, this Chargers team, with Justin Herbert, that improved defense, that offensive line, the targets, the whole 9 yards. Baltimore beat them down. Really, they scored. LA only scored 6 points, and they made them look bad. But anyways, so they do have 17 players on IR. In fact, they lost one. I believe it was was it their left tackle or their right tackle who they lost to IR today? It was somebody.
It was the left tackle. He's been out for a while, but it's officially he's gone for the season.
Yeah. So the right tackle, you said?
Left.
Sorry, left. So this Baltimore Ravens team, despite these injuries, are they for real, Justin? And put your bias aside.
Put my bias aside? What do you mean put my bias aside? Of course I'm going to say they're for real. Despite all of the injuries that have happened to them, that happened during the preseason, despite all the controversies we've had to go through, we are still your AFC best 5-1 team. We deserve respect. We faced off against Kansas City. We faced off against the Colts. We faced off against the Raiders, who are not a bad team this year. True, we faced off against the Broncos, and we exposed the Broncos for who we thought they were to be. I knew that from jump, but I'm glad we got them out the way. Who am I missing? Well, Detroit's Detroit, even though it took us a NFL record game-winning field goal to get it done. But no, we're for real. It shows that Lamar Jackson can come back from behind to win games. It shows that we can pass when we need to. It shows that Lamar Jackson is not only threatening with his feet, he's also threatening with his arm. And this team is to be feared in the AFC. Now everybody's going to still say the Bills for some unknown reason, even though they just lost to the Titans. But I still think the Ravens are to be feared, and they are for real.
So one thing I will say I've been impressed with about this Baltimore Ravens team is that they've been able to throw in the absence of their run game since they lost so many running backs, excuse me, to IR. They lost, I'm sorry, I'm blanking on his name. I know they lost Gus Edwards. They lost Justice Hill.
J.K. Dobbins,
that was the name. And right now they're left with Tyson Williams, and they had to sign Le'Veon Bell, whose career is on the downside. Let's be real. And they have Latavius Murray left, who still has a little bit left in the tank, but still, that's not the running game has not been the bright spot so far this season. Just a couple of weeks ago, Lamar Jackson threw for 450 yards and 4 touchdowns. That's the type of stat line you see from Patrick Mahomes or Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady. That's not something you see from a guy with a play style like Lamar Jackson, which leads me to wonder, is he capable of actually having that sort of playing that with that sort of play style, or maybe with a kind of a hybrid like what Russell Wilson does, where he can run, but he can also throw it and have a pocket presence. So, but at the same time, they've lost so many players to injury. Now their left tackle, that's huge. Like that's huge. Somebody who can't protect their blind side. I don't care who you are, how fast you are. If you don't see them coming, that's going to be a problem. You might be able to hear them coming, but it's not going to it's I just don't think this is sustainable. I think they're going to hit a wall at some point, and they may be a playoff team, but they'll probably be one of those teams that's like they'll make it in at 11-6.
11-6. Nah, I see us going 13-4, but because we got past the Chiefs and the Colts, those were the teams I was like, all right, we might lose here, but we got past them. I'm worried about Minnesota because I think it's a trap game, and everybody knows if you don't take trap games seriously, you can lose. So I'm worried about that a bit. We still have Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers. I'm worried about.
I think Minnesota. I think Minnesota is a team that people should take seriously this year. I think they've gotten a little bit better on the defensive side of the ball, and they continue to. And ever since a 1-2 start, they've went 2-1, and they've reached 500. So that's a team that you should take seriously. Yeah. And you mentioned the Packers.
Yeah.
I think the Packers are going to beat the Ravens.
Yeah. Okay, that was a nice little joke you did there, Adam. But let's get.
They're going to beat.
Ravens are winning that game, even though if we do lose, I wouldn't be surprised because if we lose to Aaron Rodgers, I respect it, but I think we're coming out with doubling that one. Nice try though, because it's in Baltimore. It's not like it's in Lambeau, I believe.
It's still you're facing Aaron Rodgers, and that offense.
He can catch it too. He can catch it too.
Who can?
Aaron Rodgers can catch this problem. Lamar Jackson's going to dice up that defense too.
Okay, he dice up. Or hang on, they lost Jair Alexander to IR, so that could be an issue. But they still have Eric Stokes, who's had a great start to his young career so far. And don't forget that guy Kevin King.
Oh yeah,
he can really.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have any jokes for Kevin King, but I'll figure something out about how he's a burnt piece of toast and that he got burned by Scotty Miller, their number 4 wide receiver.
Scott Miller really gave it to him.
All right. Well, anyways, we talked about one red hot AFC North team.
Yes,
now we're going to move on to another AFC North team that's not quite doing so well. We're going to talk about the Cleveland Browns next. You are listening to the Fumblerooski Podcast. This is the Fumblerooski Podcast by Power 88 Dean Radio. I'm Adam Wright with Justin Tucker. We're talking about a little bit of Week 6 action, and we've opened up talking about some AFC North teams, and we're going to go on to this next AFC North team, which is the Cleveland Browns. Now, the Cleveland Browns, this is a team that I picked to be in the conference championship this year. I thought they would go toe-to-toe with – I thought they'd be a Cinderella story. But I thought they would go toe-to-toe with the Buffalo Bills, but it hasn't worked out so well recently. So the Cleveland Browns, they fell to 3-3 with an absolute blowout loss to the Arizona Cardinals, who have been red hot out of the gate so far, granted. But they lost Kareem Hunt in this game. They've already lost Nick Chubb, and he's already going to be out for Thursday Night Football. Their quarterback, Baker Mayfield's already banged up with a shoulder, on his non-throwing shoulder, but still, it's an injury. Mm-hmm. And they're already without Jarvis Landry for the foreseeable future as he's on IR. So, Justin, how concerned should you be with this struggling Browns team so far?
Well, I'm not concerned with the Browns at all. I'm a Ravens fan. I don't care what happens to the Browns. But as a Browns fan and taking my bias out of it, I'd be concerned. Baker's a little banged up. Jarvis Landry's on IR. Nick Chubb is questionable. Kareem Hunt is now on IR. That O-line is banged up. That defense isn't looking as promising as it should be. I'd be very concerned if I'm Cleveland. And now that the Ravens are pulling away in the division and Pittsburgh's not too far behind Cleveland, and Cincinnati's playing well, they're 4-2 right now. Yeah, if I'm Cleveland, I need to figure out a way how to keep this team in one piece while still trying to make a run at the Super Bowl, or at least trying to make a run in the playoffs. I know they're missing like key pieces, but that's still no excuse considering the Ravens are missing key pieces themselves, and they still managed to pull off a 5-1 record in that time. They didn't struggle against the Chargers like the Browns did, even when they had a full healthy team, or a healthier team. But all in all, if I'm a Browns fan, I'd be majorly worried, especially at the quarterback spot, if Baker can't play.
So it's still early, and they're only 3-3. I think they're only down by about a game currently so far, and at least for second place in this division. For first, I mean, everyone's behind the Ravens right now, but you look at if you put this into context, they lost Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb, who are arguably your 1A and 1B of that backfield. And this is a run-first offense. So this is particularly concerning for this team because, let's face it, this team isn't about Baker throwing for 300 yards and 4 touchdowns. It's about Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb chewing up yardage and then playing defense. That is a recipe for this team winning games. And now they're without those two. They're going to have, I think his name is D'Ernest Johnson. D'Ernest Johnson.
Yeah.
That's their third string running back who has shown promise, but he certainly is no Kareem Hunt or Nick Chubb.
Mm-hmm.
And their quarterback who they do have is hurt, and they're without Jarvis Landry. And the one wide receiver they do have, who is healthy, he's still getting in the swing of things because he just got healthy from all the stuff that he went through in Odell Beckham Jr. He has a solid pedigree in recent years, but I mean, this just doesn't look good for them. I really could see them, especially since they're on short rest. I could see them on Thursday night losing to the Denver Broncos. I think I agree with you. I don't think this Broncos team is for real, but I think they're a team where if you have a crippled Browns team like this, you could give them a game and possibly beat them.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I think hopefully the Browns can pull this off, but it'll be a tough task without their first and second string running backs and potentially without Baker. And just in case he is listening out there, damn, Cam, what happened to your quarterback? Couldn't be mine. Couldn't be my quarterback you're talking about. But that's for another time.
Yeah. Well, you'll certainly be involved and engaged in plenty of debates with that kid, Baker Mayfield fan.
It'll never be the end of it. I'll never escape it.
I mean, as I said, I've stated my opinion on that Browns team. Baker Mayfield is mainly there just to sort of be serviceable. That team really centers on their run game.
He's not serviceable. He's good. I wouldn't say he's serviceable. I think he's a good player, but I wouldn't. He's the third best quarterback in the division.
Third best. So that means, that doesn't say, that's like third worst, like second to worst, because there's 4. So there's Joe Burrow is better.
Yeah.
So Joe Burrow is better. Lamar's better. And Roethlisberger is only not as good because he's on the downside of his career.
But
so I'm not sure.
When 2 of them are former Heisman winners and the one you're better than is a future Hall of Famer, that's tough company. The AFC North's a very tough quarterback division.
I don't even think he would be you can make a case that he'd be third best in the AFC East. Josh Allen's better than him, obviously.
Josh Allen.
And
And then there's Mac Jones
I think Mac Jones is going to be better.
Calm down there. Hold on. He's not
There's
better
not
than
much
him
to
now.
be better than.
He's not better than him now, and I can.
We're going a little
Yes.
bit off the main narrative now, which is the team, but I'm sure a Baker Mayfield debate is in the cards for the future. But I mean, I
Especially
think
with
we have
him
a
on.
strong opinion. We're pretty close to agreement on Baker Mayfield, what he is as a player. But
shake and bake.
Sure. But anyways, all right. So coming up next, I told you guys earlier, talking about our new segment, and we'll give you that right after this break. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to the Fumblerooski Podcast. Welcome back. You're listening to the Fumblerooski Podcast. I'm Adam Wright along with Justin Tucker. We opened up the show in the first two segments talking about the Baltimore Ravens and the Cleveland Browns, a couple of AFC North teams, which the AFC North always seems to be in the middle of the talk of the NFL, It seems like. But anyways, we are going on to this new segment that we were talking about, which is going to be called the Fumblerooski Game of the Week. So what that is after every week, me and Justin, we talk a little bit and we talk about what we think are the best game of let's say week 6 was, and we will talk about that in this segment. We'll describe it and we'll give our takes on that. And we probably won't even limit it to just one game. You know, we'll certainly have some honorable mentions where we'll talk about, let's say, if there's another game, we'll describe that one briefly. But anyways, for this one, we are going to have for our Fumblerooski Game of the Week this week, it is the Monday Night Football game, which was the Bills and the Titans. So for this game, we have when we posted our fan box question, who you guys thought was the team to beat so far. Almost everyone picked the Bills. So how's that looking now? Because the Bills were just upset by the Titans. I've forgot what the final score was. I believe it was 31-34. So it was a high-scoring contest. But so it was a back-and-forth game the entirety of the contest. The Titans took the lead 31-34 with 3 minutes left off a Derrick Henry touchdown. Then Allens and the Bills drove to the goal line of the Titans. It was about the 3-yard line. All right. Now, keep in mind, a field goal ties this. But they decided to be bold and go for it on 4th and 1. And Allen attempting to do a QB sneak, misses. Attempt failed, Titans win. Now, Henry accounted for 3 of the 4 touchdowns in this game for the Titans, so he really put this team on his back, and he possibly deserves some MVP consideration. But Justin, what are your thoughts on this game?
What a game. Started off with the Buffalo Bills coming out on offense, going down the field driving, but not getting any touchdowns, which was ideal for Tennessee. It was always going to be a struggle for them to stop them, but if you hold them to field goals instead of touchdowns, that's a win in my eyes. So it started off 6-0 Buffalo, and then all of a sudden, boom, Derrick Henry 76 yards for a touchdown. Just like that, they score. And then what happens is the Buffalo Bills come back down the field, 14-yard touchdown, boom, Stephon Diggs, they take the lead. In the middle of all this I think Taylor Wan got injured. Prayers for him. Hopefully he gets better. I think it's just a concussion, but he did get injured during the game. And then which one call it? I'm not sure which is which. I'm not sure if Cole Beasley scored and then Derrick Henry scored again. I think that's what happened. And then the game went into halftime with it being 17-20. Yeah, 17-20, I think, for the Bills. And then it comes back and then Derrick Henry takes over and somehow, some way gets them the win. But it's not over yet because Josh Allen still has to drive down the field and clutch it up for him. 4th and 1, game on the line. You put the ball in the quarterback's hands. He tries to drive for it, but the left tackle, Deion Dawkins, gets shoved back by Jeffrey Simmons. Simmons gets Josh Allen and puts him on the ground. Josh Allen loses his footing and then falls short of the marker, and the Titans get in victory formation and they win.
So unbelievable game. Honestly, I wonder why they decided to go for it on 4th down rather than just try to tie it. What's that?
Analytics. It was more than likely if they get the 1st down, they would win the game. So they were probably trying to score instead of leaving it up to go to overtime. So especially in Nashville, and if they don't get the ball back anyway, they would just rather if we're going to lose, we're going to lose it with us with the ball. So it was 4th and 1, and they think Josh Allen is going to get it because he's like 6'6", 240. So it seems pretty reasonable that he can push for a yard.
Right, but if you miss it, then you lose. Like that's like automatic, which they did. And
either way, it's a gamble.
I think it's less of a gamble when you just hit the field goal. I mean, I think you have I would have more faith in that offense, especially since the other offense, Tennessee, they just lost Julio Jones, meaning it became just the Derrick Henry show. When you rely on your running back, eventually you're going to fail. And that's what happens with the Titans just about every year. Because, I mean, it's built around their running game, which it serves them well to an extent, but eventually there's a point where they fail. And that's why they're not a Super Bowl contender in my eyes. That's why they really haven't been in this time where they've been competitive. And if they had... What's that?
They're 4-2 just like the Bills are right now.
I know. Well, I still think that this bit there's a big difference between the Bills and the Titans, and the Bills have a much better passing game. This is the age that we're living in of a pass heavy league, and the running game just doesn't do it anymore.
Sure, but I disagree because they're still managing to win. Derrick Henry's like by far the leading rusher in the league. And as of right now, no team seems to be able to stop him, even though Julio Jones and A.J. Brown were out from time to time. And Julio Jones is now out again. For some reason, they just can't seem to stop Derrick Henry. And once that 76-yard touchdown happened, I was like, oh boy, Brian's fantasy team was in trouble tonight because I know he was going over 100 yards. The question was how many touchdowns he was going to get, and he got 3.
But for all that greatness that Derrick Henry has, it's only accounted for 1 AFC Championship appearance.
It's better than no AFC Championship appearance.
Where they where the game really wasn't competitive. And you could see the Titans were biting, scratching, clawing to score, and the Chiefs were doing it effortlessly. That just tells you. I mean, it's a passing game. That's what wins you. Not just passing, but all like balance as well. They can, like the Bills, they can throw the ball, but they can also run it too. I think Devin Singletary and Zach Moss, those guys aren't bums. And Josh Allen could also run the ball as well. So they have more of a balance than Tennessee does, whereas if you're relying on Ryan Tannehill to win you games, then you're in trouble. Regardless of if Julio Jones, who's past his prime, by the way, or AJ Brown is back there. You can't trust that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if the Bills put this in their hands to say, all right, beat us with your offense. We don't think you can do that. I think they would have won.
Don't say the Bills running game around Andrew, because he'll say Devin Singlepoop.
I know he will. But anyways, so we are reaching the end of our show, which means we are going to go on to the Fumblerooski fan box, and we'll go over your answers for that. So don't go anywhere. You are listening to the Fumblerooski Podcast. Welcome back. You're listening to the Fumblerooski Podcast. I am your host, Adam Wright, with co-host Justin Tucker, as always. And as always, you guys are going to get your responses to the Fumblerooski fan box this week. So we will post a question box every Monday, and you can respond with hot takes, questions, and more. And we will discuss it and give you a shout out on our podcast. Respond to next week's fan box question and be featured on our show. So let's get right into it. So the question of the week for this week's fan box was, who put up the best performance in week 6? So to lead off our responses, we had good old ex-co-host Brian Mucker, who said, Cowboys, preferably CeeDee Lamb. Now, this isn't a bad take, honestly. CeeDee Lamb, I think he's the best wide receiver in that, out of that receiving core between him, Amari Cooper, and Michael Gallup. I mean, this guy could play. He's young. He's already close to the play of Amari Cooper. In fact, maybe better, considering he has more consistency than Amari Cooper. And
maybe he gets more targets.
What's that?
Maybe he gets more targets.
He gets open. Got to get open.
And you're telling me Amari doesn't?
He gets open more often, clearly, and CeeDee's just the more explosive player, I think. You know, they're about even right now, but I think with CeeDee's potential, his route running potential, his speed, his explosiveness, not to say that Amari isn't. I think the issue with Amari is what you see is what you get from him. He's already in his prime. This is the best he'll ever be. CeeDee Lamb, he's already close to that, and he's in his second year. And most of his first year, he put up 900 yards, almost 1,000 yards, and most of his first year he was playing with backups. And you could see in those first few weeks with Dak Prescott, with an actual quarterback, he already looked close to NFL ready. I mean, he kind of is, because he had nearly 1,000 yards last year. He's on pace to destroy that record this year. So honestly, I love it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, CeeDee Lamb's been looking good, and the Cowboys overall have been looking great, to be honest. Outside of the game against a few minor details against the Patriots, they've been looking good so far this season, but still, it's the Cowboys.
Yeah. But anyways, moving on, we have Patrick Williver, 22, with yet another response. So he said Dak attack.
Oh, boy.
Dak Prescott, I believe he has, 16 touchdowns so far this year?
I think so. Don't hold me to it.
To 4 touchdowns. He is...
4 interceptions.
He deserves MVP consideration. He deserves MVP consideration. Now, the MVP itself, I'd put him third. I put it Tom Brady, Justin Herbert, Dak Prescott.
You're putting Herbert over Lamar. I want you to think about that.
I am putting Herbert over Lamar.
How? He just got abused. He got spanked. He got played with. What?
Yeah, but Lamar threw 2 picks and just 1 touchdown in that win.
34-6. What?
It was an all-around victory for them. I thought it
No,
was a bad showing,
no,
but I mean everybody has
no.
bad showings.
Tom Brady 1, Lamar 2, Dak 3, Kyler 4. Then if you want to put Herbert 5, that's fine.
Wow.
And that's nothing
All right.
against Herbert. It's just the MVP is very competitive this year.
It is very competitive. I will say that. I think
And I didn't even
it
see
seems like it's
Stafford.
always, but it does seem like it's always competitive like this at this time of the year. And it's not until later on in the year when we have a good idea about who is going to win league MVP. Like I feel like I'm pretty sure it wasn't until later on in the season, probably like the last quarter of the season, where we figured that Aaron Rodgers was going to win league MVP because it was a really close race between him, Patrick Mahomes, Russell Wilson. I think Tom Brady was in there for a little bit. You know, there were a lot of candidates. I mean, it's not like it is this year, but I mean, it typically happens like that. But anyways, we're getting a
every
little.
other year there's like 3 or 4 candidates, but this year it's like 5 or 6. It can go 6 deep, including Matthew Stafford.
Yeah, I was gonna say we haven't even talked about Matthew Stafford and that running back in Tennessee, the King Henry. He might deserve some consideration in there. But anyways, CJ Medeiros, who is our co-host for a week, he said Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp, Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb. So he lists off like 4 players, but all of them are pretty much relevant. Each quarterback threw for 3 touchdown passes. Actually, Stafford threw for 4. I believe Dak threw for 3. Cooper Kupp has been a monster this year.
Yes, he has. Especially in my fantasy. Yes, he has.
Yeah. I'm just upset because I took the wrong Rams receiver. I thought Woods was going to be better, especially with Matthew Stafford in there. Oh, I thought he was going to be better. But, I mean, Woods has been all right, but Cooper has been the clear-cut better player.
Mm-hmm. I was like, give me Cooper Kupp. And once I saw preseason and the way he was performing like during practices with Matthew Stafford, I'm like, yeah, once I see that, if I have the opportunity, I'm getting him.
Yeah. And Matt Draper said Derrick Henry, put him in the MVP conversation. So Derrick Henry, we were talking about him earlier being an MVP candidate, and we were talking about how we literally put his team on his back when we were talking about the game of the week, the Monday Night Football game between the Titans and the Bills. But I mean, to outscore a high-powered passing offense like that is impressive, and he really has in the past few years. He's put this team on his back. So I mean, it's rare that a running back wins the MVP, but if it's going to be any running back, it's going to be this one.
Yeah, but the problem is he's got legitimately 6 people ahead of him before we even start thinking about Derrick Henry, and that's the problem. We have to wait until later in the season when things start dropping, and we can say, okay, such and such is in the conversation now. I'm not even
because
sure
it's a quarterback-driven league.
Yeah. Now, don't get me wrong, he's playing like an absolute stud, but it's not like I can just put aside Tom Brady, Lamar Jackson, Aaron Rodgers, who I didn't even mention, Kyler Murray, Matthew Stafford. I can't throw any of them away before
I know.
I get
But
to
he belongs
Derrick.
we're not saying he should lead, but he does belong in the conversation. He belongs right in there with everybody else. But anyways, Robert Shelley said, Washington defense showed me something this week. So for those of you who don't know who Robert Shelley is, I'm sure a lot of you do, since a lot of you are coming from the listening to the Pesky Pole podcast very often. But Robert is the host of our brother-sister podcast, the Pesky Pole podcast, about the Red Sox and other things Major League Baseball. And he said Washington defense showed me something this week. And let me explain something to you. Do you want to know what the Washington defense gave up? Do you want to know?
Yeah, I do want to know. Tell me.
They surrendered 31 points on 4 total touchdowns, 2 from the air and 2 from the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Over 500 scrimmage yards. And he said they showed me something this week.
Uh-huh.
You know, you want to know which team if you want to say it's like Washington defense, like they were serviceable, they did all right because they did get a couple picks off of Patrick Mahomes, and they held him to 17 through 3 quarters. If you want to say they were like serviceable, they did okay. That's something. That's okay. But you want to know who actually shows me something this week is against the Kansas City offense is in the Super Bowl. Super Bowl, what was it, 55 this past week? I'm sorry, I've lost track of the Super Bowl.
I think
55?
Yeah, either 54, 55. I think it is 55.
Yeah. Tampa Bay's defense surrendered just 9 points to the Kansas City Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes was running for his life. The Chiefs couldn't even score a touchdown. That's something that shows me something. But anyways, that's enough of my rant for that. Then I respond. Then Robert responds to it, and he goes, "I wasn't saying it in a good way." And he goes, and I was like, "Dude, I said best performances." He goes, "Too bad." He goes. And then he asked me if I could be on his show tomorrow, and because of that, maybe I just won't show up. Show up, Robert. But
come on, show professionalism.
Anyways, I don't know what his goal was in saying that. Maybe he was just trying to get me riled up, which he low-key succeeded because I just went on a nice little rant there. But anyways, Justin, you have any other thoughts before we close off the show for tonight?
Boston's playing right now. Hopefully they get the job done against the Astros, but until then, we'll see. I need to finish up my homework before I go.
Don't tell me the score. Don't tell me the score yet. I want to wait till I'm done recording this episode. Then I'm gonna finish editing, and then I'll catch the last few episodes. Sorry, the last few innings. Oh, I hope they win. I went to the game last night. For those of you who were following on Robert's podcast, I took over his podcast last night, and I sent some videos of the game. I did some live streams. I sent my reaction of it was pretty cool, actually. I love baseball. That's something you guys might not know about me, but I have been on Robert's show, and I love baseball. I played in middle school and high school. I'm a diehard Red Sox fan, so I do love that. It was fun being there. I 10 out of 10 recommend going to a postseason game. So much of a different energy than some regular season game where you're just having a good time. But anyways, that'll do it for us tonight. Thank you for listening to us. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Check us out on Spotify, Spreaker, and Google Podcast. Also, be sure to follow our Instagram at Fumblerooski_podcast to keep up with our podcast and the latest coverage on the NFL. Otherwise, we will see you next week. Over and out.
Bye. Okay.